Hey Joe, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Thanks, Chris.
So you've been talking forever about mastering the Ollie and really owning it. And I mean, I can speak from my own personal experience. It's something that I'm always trying to get better at. And mine are, in my opinion, terrible. but I think maybe everybody has that opinion of their Ollie.
I know I do. And I can back it up with video.
Well,
My Ollies, I must confess, my name is Joe and my Ollies suck.
this is like an Ollie's Anonymous
Yeah.
session. Okay, so I don't think you're alone in that. I think maybe Ollie is one of the hardest things people try to learn, even though it's probably the most important trick anyone tries to learn. It is the gateway really to street tricks, to being able to, ever get onto a handrail or Ollie over something, down some stairs, or, anything like that, up something. And I'm sure. And I'm sure you have some kind of goal with your Ollie that you're trying to achieve. And maybe what is that? What are you trying to do with your Ollie? Let's establish that first so we know what we're working towards.
Really simply, I want to be able to always Ollie up a curb. No fear, no hesitation, no slams.
So
I
you're
just
cruising along and you know exactly what it's supposed to feel like, how much speed, how much pop, and you know that you're going to land and just keep on skating.
exactly. I want to be able to Ollie up a curb.
Right. That'd be a pretty important tool to have to navigate the streets of your hometown there. So, and same thing with just a manual pad, being able to ollie up, a 4-inch high manual pad, just like ollieing up a curb, really. So being able to ollie, means that you'll have the fundamental, foundation to learn a kick flip or, a heel flip or anything like that, which is, again, these are all sort of gateway steps. So this trick kind of leads to everything uh, in street skating for sure.
That's why I want to learn to it. I look at it as kind of a ticket of entree, or it's a way to get beyond the velvet rope and get into the, just to make it so I can go up onto the manual pad and do a 50-50. I'm learning the
Yeah.
backside 50-50 on coping. If I can ollie onto the manual pad and do a backside 50-50, that would be just awesome.
Right. So, and I think it's certainly one of those things where you go, yeah, this makes me feel like a skateboarder. I can do this, so therefore I'm a skateboarder. I mean, there are a lot of skateboarders. If you ask them the first thing that you should learn, and they'll tell you it's the ollie, which is, in my mind, seems a little bit of a leap because there's all these other things you really should learn first about a skateboard and how to stand on a skateboard, so you have the fundamentals to actually be able to do an ollie. But they do have a point. Learning to ollie is really fun, and it's such a cool trick. And if you can do it, it's like you're mastering yourself and the skateboard. And I mean, maybe you can associate it to other things. Like I work with a lot of athletes, and learning inverted awareness, like a backflip. When you learn how to do your first backflip, the lights just turn on and you become a different human being. When you learn, I mean, when on a skateboard, you can drop in, you can pump, you can rip bowl corners. I've seen all that. I'm sure when you learned how to drop in, that was a pretty big moment. And these all these moments lead to your overall sense of confidence and personal awareness. So tell me, like, what are you struggling with in your ollie?
Number one is it's not high. I can vertical jump. I could probably suck my feet up at least 2 feet, maybe 3 feet, if I just jump up and suck my feet up. My ollies inconsistently will go maybe an inch off the ground. Sometimes I can get over a skateboard on its side. But when I'm doing it, first of all, it's inconsistent. It's not high.
Okay, take a look at this. Here it is in slow motion. You're clipping the skateboard. And that one, certainly this ollie, if we look at it, your back wheels probably aren't high enough to ollie over that skateboard if it was on its side, like you talked about. But still, it's a pretty high. It's a pretty good ollie. I mean, you're 4 inches, 4 to 6 inches off the ground. Not bad. Timing, if you look at the arc, you can see why you landed on the skateboard deck. It's because, really simply put, you need more speed with that height of ollie. So first, probably one of the first keys to ollieing over or up onto anything is knowing how much speed you need to carry the apex of your trajectory to the highest point that you need to clear, right? So And when you think about the apex of your trajectory, you always have to think about whatever the lowest part of the board is. Now, in a good ollie, your board levels out, right? In the not so good ollies, the board levels out late, or it never levels out at all, and you land on your back wheels, that kind of thing. Your
Question.
board actually, go ahead.
Is that called a rocket ollie when the nose stays higher than the tail?
That's what people refer to it as. Yeah, just a rocket ollie. And it's like you'd fly through the air just like this with your board up high, and your back foot would never come up, and your front leg would never extend out in front of you. And that's a part of the ollie in the air is the front leg goes from the position it's in now to extending down right there, which you can see it did. See there, your ollie leveled out. You see what I'm talking about? But notice that it's leveling out when you're on the way down. That's
right.
when it finally leveled out. And in a high level ollie, you're going to see that guys will level out their skateboard at the apex, right around the apex. So it's just a quicker move. And then I was talking about speed, right? So the amount of speed you have. I'll back this up and I'll just play it in regular speed. Watch the speed you're carrying. So, I mean, it's a comfortable speed, right? We'll jump right into it. It's slow, right? If you want to go over that, if you want to get over that thing with that amplitude of ollie, right? That height of ollie, you're going to have to go a little faster. That's number one. So getting up the curb is key. One of the keys to getting up the curb, for example, would be to carry enough speed to actually go from where you take off, right? So if we look at that really quick, I'll do it in slow motion. Watch when you start to rise. You're already rising. Your front wheels come up pretty close to the board. I don't know if you could get much closer. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. The nose was actually over the board before the wheels left the ground.
Which it has to be. But think about it. At the speed you're traveling, could you have waited much longer to get the front wheels up without hitting? No, I mean, you're within 6 inches right there. So 6-8 inches. And I'd say like that's where you got to pick up. Now, with your amplitude of ollie, that's your amplitude. That speed that you're carrying means you're going to clip the board. You just
however
clearing enough distance with the back wheels.
If I'm going up a curb though, I don't need to go past the edge of the board. So this might have been tall and the amplitude was too early.
But let's say your average curb height is like 6 inches.
Right.
And what you're seeing right here is that there's the curb. Your nose is at the curb right now. Let's use the skateboard as the curb, right? And I want to put it in relative terms because this is your goal. Your goal is to be able to ollie up a curb, not over a skateboard deck, right? So right here, your nose has to start coming up or it's going to bump into the curb. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You couldn't get any closer. Now use that front edge of the skateboard right here. I'll just draw it. Let's put a little reference line on here. Okay, so this right here is the curb. Let's say that's the height of the curb, something like that. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, cool. We'll get back into this. And let's see if your front wheels clear the curb. They did. Front wheels cleared the curb. So your front wheels are up. You're golden. You're going to make it, pony boy. Oh, so close to clipping. So you are just within the parameters of making it onto the curb. Does that make sense?
Right. But if that would have been a curb, I would have been so freaked out by it psychologically. There's no way I could have made that.
Well, and think about what I'm saying. Realistically, if you use this skateboard's really a good example for ollieing up a curb. You need to be able to ollie the distance of that skateboard. You need to be able to clear that skateboard completely. So are you going fast enough with that height of ollie to clear the curb or clear the skateboard?
Yes.
No.
Almost. No.
Almost. It's barely. It's real questionable. So you really have to be confident ollieing with a little more speed. So that would be number one. If we're talking about things to work on, practice low ollies at higher speed.
Okay.
That's going to help you. So practice a 1-inch high ollie at a higher speed. Get used to ollieing at a slightly higher speed. So let's add a couple miles per hour to your overall speed into your ollie and see if you can be comfortable. So if you're making notes, there's drill number one, right? We just hit drill number one. You have to be able to ollie at speed because you're doing a pretty good ollie. There's really not a whole lot wrong with your ollie. We're going to talk about how to maximize it and make you go higher, of course, because I know that's what you want. But first thing first, if you're ever going to ollie up a curb, you have got to have more speed.
Okay. What else?
Let's say this is the relative height of the curb, just so you have that frame of reference, okay?
Sure.
And then we're gonna look at something else as you come in here. We're gonna look at right in here, we're gonna look at how high your back foot is off the ground, okay? In your entire Ollie. So you can see the height that it's at right now. Let's go ahead and draw. This is a really cool thing. I've been watching so many Ollies, and the height of the back foot actually has something to do with how hard you can snap and how high you jump. Because you're saying you can stand static and jump and pull your knees 3 feet off the ground, right? Or you get your feet 2 to 3 feet off the ground, no problem, because you're a big, tall guy.
Yeah, theoretically, I should be able to do 6 boards, no problem. One thing that guys who do Ollies have always told me is like, you got to stomp down really hard with my back foot.
Right.
So,
and they're not exactly wrong in that you got to have a quick motion. You got to flick the tail down really, really quick. But what you don't want to do is put weight on the back foot, because the second you start putting a ton of weight on the back foot, your foot does this really interesting thing. You can see that line in the video, right? Okay. So as you watch this, as you watch your foot, watch your back foot. Notice how your back foot dropped below that line. Look at your heel specifically. Sure. So your heel dropped well below that line.
Well, I'm stomping it. Why? Of course.
You're trying to jump off your back foot. There's this common misconception that in an Ollie, you actually plant the toe and push off the tail like you're leaping from the tail. And there's no leap from the tail, right? That's one of the hardest things to learn about the Ollie, is that right here, you have even distribution of weight between both feet. Okay. And you're going to start jumping just like you're doing a static jump. Like you're saying you can jump and pull your feet up. That's all you're doing. In an Ollie, really, that's all you're doing. You're going to jump right here, your feet are at that level, and you're going to try to jump from both feet at that level. Then once you get weightless, meaning your feet, you've now executed the jump, and you can jump and pull your knees up as high as you want. Now your feet can do whatever you want them to do. So one foot's going to go down, right? You're going to flip. You're not really pushing the foot down, but you're going to extend the toes down, right? And the other foot's going to roll forward and start to slide up as you pick up the front knee. So one leg is extending, your back leg is extending the knee and ankle, right? While as hip, knee, and ankle, while the front half of the body's front leg is flexing. You're bending the lead hip, knee, and ankle to pull that foot up so that you can allow the nose to climb up, because that's one of the first parts of the Ollie. And go ahead.
So you're saying that this is a revelation to me. You're saying that I'm not just going down and up. Actually, my body, the front side of my body is going up, while the back side is going up at the same time that it's supposed to be also going down to give energy to the board. So it's front's going up, bottom's going down for just a split second there, right?
Yeah, and it has to happen after you've already created upward momentum with your core. So you have to basically have already jumped off the board. Can you do a hippie jump on a skateboard?
Yeah, I used to be able to do like 3 feet plus, actually.
I'm highly confident that if we put a park bench where that skateboard is right now in the video, and you did a hippie jump, that you could suck your feet up and go right over the top of it. If you trust yourself enough, no problem. I think you could clear that. And age is not the issue here. Your quickness of movement, your strength, none of these things are really the issue. Now, you can always develop those things, but that's not the issue. The issue is it's a timing of a sequence of movements, right? So you have to jump first, flick and roll second, right? So the flick and roll, they happen simultaneously. Your front foot starts your front knee starts to come up, and your front foot starts to roll forward to slide up the nose, right? To go up the nose, while your back foot goes flick, right? And those two things have to happen simultaneously. So do that with your hands. Put your hands out on the screen like you can see me here. I'm gonna stop the share for a second. We'll just do a quick little screen share. I want you to think of, I'm goofy, so I'm gonna use my left hand as my back foot, and my right hand as my front foot. My front foot's gonna do this. Roll your front foot up. Just do it, whichever one's your front foot. Yep, just roll it out and slide it up to the corner of the screen. Just kind of get that. Okay. And think about how hard it is just to do this with your hands. And you want to do this with your feet. It's like, yeah, you might as well tie your tongue in knots. Okay, so now take your backhand and flick. Don't push it down. I didn't say move it down, just flick. Feel that?
Well, this is the stopping thing that I've been doing, and now you're saying I should be going like that.
A
Actually,
lot more of this and a lot less of this, right?
okay, yeah.
So
So it's
now,
back
can
to
you,
the ankle. This is
go
an
ahead.
ankle thing, not a knee thing, right?
It's an ankle thing, not a knee thing. But you don't, your back leg does extend. So your hip, ankle, your hip, knee, and ankle do extend, but it's more important that we don't push the foot down and then extend. We just flick. So now do it together, right? So we're gonna go flick and roll at the same time. Flick. Yeah, and just hold it. Flick. Now, if you sit there, you can do it with your feet, right? Whoop.
Yeah, I'm doing it with my feet now.
Yeah, if you do it with your feet, you gotta get that flick. It's very awkward when you think about it.
That's so awkward.
And but that's the thing that you're missing, right? You're missing the ability to jump first and flick and roll second. Now, it looks like it's one blended movement. When you watch a really good skater, I'll go back on the screen because you actually got a shot of a guy who has a really good ollie. And I want you to watch primarily his back foot right now. Just watch the action. Okay, so he's low just like you. He starts with a narrower stance than you do, but it is what it is. Every skater has a slightly different starting stance and style and feel, and they like different things, and that's okay. Now right here, watch that back foot. Notice that he's already coming up. Look, he jumped up. He literally is jumping up off the ground right there. He's doing a standing jump right there. And now he's getting up in the air, right? He's about to jump off his skateboard. And if he doesn't do something really important, he's going to jump right off the skateboard and do a hippie jump, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now here's what he does. There's the flick and roll. Look at it. Look at that front foot started to roll, and look at the back ankle at the exact same time. Here, maybe this will even, we'll highlight them a little bit. I like all these features that you have with the annotate in Zoom. Okay, so you know what? It's gonna, if you watch both ankles, right? Let's see if that helps. If you watch both ankles, you can see the back ankle. Look at how flexed the back ankle is right now. See how bent it is right here?
Right.
And then watch the front foot. Front foot's flat right now. In a second, you're going to see the front foot roll out, but you're going to see the back ankle extend at the same time. One frame change. Do you notice the difference?
Yep.
So, and also really quickly note that his back heel never dropped. It never went down, which is telling you that he never pushed his foot below the starting height of what he's doing. So watch right here. See how low his foot is there? His back foot?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see his back foot, his heel stays above the line the entire time.
So he was almost fully, his knees were almost straight. His legs were almost straight before he actually lifted, flicked with his back foot and rolled with his front.
Yeah, he's getting lightweight. Imagine you get super low as you can, and then you only rise half of your total range of motion. So you can extend to straight legs, or you can extend to half bent legs, right? And when you extend it, if you extend just to half bent legs, you're not going to get very high. Does that make sense?
Sure, it does.
If you extend to straight legs, you're going to get higher. Now he gets a lot closer to full extension right there. And this is the moment. He's almost fully extended, and he goes flick and roll right there. So he knows that he can't start his flick and roll until he's on the way up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And he learned this intuitively. Again, if you watch it, I'll just watch it slow-mo. It just looks like one movement. It's just one smooth movement, right? But
you know what's interesting? He doesn't even compress, and he's still getting that high. He doesn't suck it up. He's not tweaking it. And
well, have you ever heard the term rapid twitch muscle movement?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're training, what athletes are training for all the time is strength, right? They're training for speed in their movements in most sports. Well, skateboarding is no different. And where you're the strongest, where you can move the fastest in terms of your legs, your ankles, knees, and hips extending, is when they're mostly extended. Mm-hmm. So if you bend and get super low and you get down in a deep squat, in that deepest part of the squat, you're going to be moving really slow. As you get taller and your legs get more extended, then you'll start to move faster because that's where most of your strength is. So to that end, you don't have to get super low to ollie up a curb. You might want to get super low if you want to ollie over like 10 stacked skateboards or something, right? Because you're going to have to jump as high as you possibly can, but that's going to require massively correct timing. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
So to that end, you could probably work a lot less than Nolan is and still ollie up the curb, right? And you can certainly work a lot less than you are and ollie up a curb. Okay, so he's catching the foot or catching the nose of the board with his front foot, laid against the nose of the board perfectly, and his foot's ahead of the front wheels. Now that literally happens because he's lifted that front knee to clear the way so the nose can climb. And now you can see right here, his back leg is fully extended, as you talked about. The back leg does extend, right? You can also see that the back ankle, look at the back ankle. It's totally extended down, right? So he's really extended that ankle into that flick move. And that's what's important here, is just to recognize that all those things that you're trying to do happen. They just happen much later in the timing for Nolan than they do for you. So now look at because he jumped, and here's another really important thing.
Wow, look at that. Look at how high he goes.
Now you get to the same position in your ollie, and I'll show you in a second. You get to that same position where you've leveled out the board, but you're leveling it out just before you land. He's leveling it out at apex, just like we talked about. So here he's climbing to apex. He's at his apex, right? And he's already gone level, and he's done that sort of ninja kick that skateboarders do where their front leg extends. That front leg extending is kind of the byproduct of pulling the back knee up and the counterbalancing that happens there naturally. So there's all that going on, right? And he's starting to drive the nose down. He's caught it. He's trying to keep his front foot with the board. So if we go back to what we were talking about originally, and this is the first thing we're going to really focus on, okay, in your ollie pathway here, your journey to ollie, your ollie project, if you will. You're going to focus on the timing of when you flick and roll, right? And the flick and roll is that a lot of people talk about it. Back foot flicks down, front foot rolls and rises, right? Those two moves together. When does that happen? Well, that happens after you've jumped off the ground. So he's literally trying to jump off the ground at the last little bit of extension. Look, he's only got a little bit of extension left in his back leg. Can you see that? He can only extend the knee a little bit further. There it is. Now look at how dynamic that move was. He was holding this. Look at, he's in this position for a couple frames, and then he knows it's time. Watch, the nose comes up. It's time. So that's where he goes, snap, right there. And that's a lot of movement, because this, you film this in probably 30 frames per second, so you can't really see the breakdown. But that is a huge move and a very fast move. Notice the difference. Watch how slow these moves are. Slow, 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 slow. Snap. A huge move. He covered a ton of ground in that last frame. So that's that quick, that's that rapid twitch, but he can't do it until after he's already jumped off the ground. Right. And that is the hardest thing to coordinate. Even if you just stood up right now and jumped off the ground and then tried to do that move, to flick and roll, right? It's like some kind of ballet move. It's like a ballerina doing like a little, whatever, I don't know what they call the moves, but where they jump up and flick the feet, that kind of thing. Like all those moves, it's a highly coordinated, carefully timed movement that he has learned naturally, which allows him to ollie, 2 feet plus off the ground. But I mean, kid's got a sick ollie. It's a really good ollie. He does everything that you see in real natural skateboard ollies, right? So Jordan could be your model. We're going to try to achieve Jordan's skill. But if you look at his range of motion, I mean, literally, let's see how high his core is. So let's see. So that's about as tall as he gets. So if I put a mark right here, this would just be interesting for your reference, right? If I put a line here.
Yeah, there's the fence back there that works really well.
Yeah, the fence is a great reference too. So let's measure, and let's just see how high his core goes above that line.
About as high as his skateboard, actually, because his legs don't ever even suck up. I mean, if he sucked up his legs, he'd be able to go another 1.5 feet.
Yeah, if he really wanted to, right? So just to give you that second frame of reference, there's his core. So you can kind of estimate that's a little less than that is how high he's actually jumping off the ground. And the board is not, by the way, the board is not helping him off the ground. The board is, if the board has only helped him about, 3 or 4 inches off the ground, whatever the actual height of the skateboard is.
Right.
But in terms of how high his core got off the ground, that's just how high he can jump. So he's strong enough to jump his core that high off the ground. And that's, this is showing you that he's probably got like an 18-inch vertical leap. He's a strong kid. However, for you to ollie up a curb, you only need about a 6-inch vertical leap, because you're already 4 inches off the ground, from your wheels, 3 to 4 inches off the ground. Your skateboard only has, your wheels, only have to get, I guess you've got to get them about 8 inches off the ground. And most of that amplitude is going to come from retracting your legs, pulling your legs up. So you really, if you only, say you only jump 3 inches, like say your vertical leap, meaning how high you could jump off the ground, how far your core raises from the most extended point, when your feet are still touching the ground. Let's say you only jump 3 inches, but then you sucked your board up another 5 inches. Well, that's 8 inches. So all you have to really do is be able to retract your knees up towards your chest about 5 inches and jump about 3 inches off the ground. Boom, ollieing up the curb. Does that make sense?
Easy peasy.
I like that. You're like, easy peasy. All right, so we'll get right back into this, and then there's plenty more to cover, but we're just talking about how to get amplitude right now. Okay, so first we talked about the speed at which you're approaching the feature. Well, if I play this real time, I'm going to let you watch both of these through, okay? And I want you just to recognize if it's similar speed or different speed. Okay, that's Jordan. Here comes Joe. Who's going faster?
Well, you slowed mine down.
Nope. That was regular speed. You ready? Watch again.
Yeah.
That's Jordan. No slow-mo added here. This is Joe. Who's going faster?
Call him Slow Joe. You guys called Sleepy Joe. You could just call me Slow Joe.
Slow Joe. All right. Okay, Slow Joe. So that's a huge factor. First of all, he's going faster, which means he's going to clear way more distance. So speed is a big factor for you. Learning how to ollie, like low height ollies for you at speed is going to be really important. Don't worry about how high you can go. Just worry about being able to actually time the movements with more speed. Does that make sense? Right. So do what you already do with a little more speed. Get used to that. That's one thing you can practice right away. And if you want to use a skateboard deck as a reference, or get a piece of chalk and draw a couple lines and just create your own little reference points. But realistically, what you're going for is a little more speed with a low amplitude ollie. And right here, let's see. Now, notice something. You started out, I'm going to back it up. Your core is that high, okay? This is how tall you are. So you're just standing straight up and down on the skateboard naturally and comfortably. This is a good thing to recognize. Okay, there's your core, right? I'm just drawing a line through the center of most of where your mass is, right around your pelvic bone, that kind of area, right? Now watch, as you get into this, okay, this is going to be really, really telling, I think. You're going to get down really low. Your core drops way below. So you dropped a foot below that line, right?
Right.
Now notice something. You barely got your core back above the line that you started just standing static. So it's like a 2-inch high vertical leap at this point. And there's a reason why. Remember what I said about earlier? I said, if you just practice getting low and then you only rise to half of your range of motion, right? You don't go to full extension. How high will you jump? Well,
now we know.
That's where, when you started the roll and flick, you only got there. Here comes the roll and flick right in here. Yeah, you see it happening? That's all the extension you got. You didn't even use your full range of motion. You never even fully extended to give yourself that easy amplitude. So here's a recommendation for you. Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
My legs are bent.
What's that?
My legs are bent. Whereas as Jordan's, he was extended, but his front leg was extended before.
Yes, it was. So, yes, it was. When he's fully jumping, he's not bent like this. His front leg is far more extended than yours is. So one thing you can practice, here's some fun things you can do, okay? You're going to practice a light pop with the same flick. So if you stand, I'll take it back to where you're set up. This is how tall, that's a great picture of your face. You're like, we'll leave it right there. That's funny. No, I'm just kidding. So this is how tall you are, right? You're getting set up for the Ollie. Well, what if you only dropped your core this low? So I only want you to get that low. Do you see that? See what I'm talking about with this frame of reference?
I do. I'm making notes right now. Yeah, I
want you to practice the shortest leap you can and still flick the board and see what you get. And the reason why is because I think you'll probably start to get better timing with this, and you'll realize that you don't have to get super low and try to ollie over 10 skateboards. You really only have to ollie over a piece of paper. And so the mission here is, can you change the timing of the ollie to I'm most extended before I start my flick and roll versus I'm still halfway or mostly flexed when I start my flick and roll. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
So that's going to be your focus right now. You're focused on the timing of the flick and roll, and I want you to play around with it. Feel free to get as low as you possibly can and then jump as high as you want. But the mission is to video yourself and ask yourself, okay, where am I starting my flick and roll? Is my back foot still dropping down below this line? So let me draw another line right here. Okay, so here's where your back foot, your back heel currently is. If I get into motion, right? Let's get you going here. So that's about the height of your heel. So it's pretty close. Okay. Let's get you in motion. There we go. Okay. So now you're getting down low. There's your super low stance, which every skater does, but you don't necessarily need to. Watch your back heel. Now I'm going to argue that that's a better ollie than the one you did at the skate park. It is, and it's high. I would think it's probably similar height, if not a little higher in motion. But here's why, is because watch. Your back foot doesn't drop nearly as low below that line as it did in the video that we watched of you at the park. So that's a good thing. It's a really good thing. Now the question is, can you get to where Jordan's at, where you see his back foot rising the entire time, even before he gets into his flick and roll? Oops, sorry. Let's back it up one time here. Watch that one again. Okay. There's that foot dropping down a little bit below where it started, but not much. It's pretty much on the line. And notice that board leveled out sooner. This ollie levels out sooner than the ollie at the skate park. Your ollie at the skate park leveled out when you were almost back on the ground. This one actually levels out just past the apex. Here's the apex. That's the highest you're going to jump. Now everything's starting to come back down. That's right where you leveled out. It's a better ollie. So it just in terms of the timing. And that's what we're focused on, is can we get the timing to where your back foot stays above that line, where you're fully extending up, you're jumping off the board before you flick and roll. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. You have any questions about what you're working on?
No, I've got the notes here.
Okay, so the next video we do will be just looking at you. You can do them static, you can do it rolling. We'll be looking at the timing of your flick and roll. When are you extended? Are you fully extended and jumping, or are you flicking and rolling while you're still in a flexed position? That makes sense?
It does. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Nice job. These are going to get really good really fast. It won't take long. We'll focus in on the right things, and we'll get you grinding these things out to where you're comfortably ollieing how you want to.
Right on. Thanks, Coach Chris. I appreciate it.
See you next time. Our goal is to help you learn how to skateboard and understand more about skateboarding. We'd love to hear what you think, so leave us a comment and let us know if there's a trick, a video, or any other topic about skateboarding you'd like us to focus on in the future. Be sure to like and subscribe our channel and check out the links to all of our other videos. If you'd like to learn more about the United States Skateboard Education Association, please visit www.ussea.us, where you can become a certified coach, learn more about how to skateboard, and learn more about how to help others learn how to skateboard.